First one. So this is where we get the whole thing started. This guy, Hugo Vale, fired this tweet off this morning. White men aren't being hired anymore. I don't know. Elon tweeted about something. He said a few months ago he applied to work for X and noted that his resume that he was retired, didn't need a salary. He has a lot of experience as a mobile developer. Didn't get a response. And Elon Musk fired out this thing, "We're just dumb." Which is weird. Like, are you talking about X being dumb? Like, oh, we didn't hire him? Or you white men are dumb? And everybody was like, all right, weird response, but not bad, not terrible, nothing to really be, Elon being Elon. Maybe he's playing a video game or whatever the case may be. Until we get to the next one where things really kind of just went off the rails as far as, okay, well, are we talking about H1B visas here or not? And this guy, Mario Narwhal, hey, buddy, I hope you find your dad, whatever this guy's name is. He put out this thing about Silicon Valley's biggest limitations. Apparently, there's an engineering shortage in these United States. I don't know if you knew about that, but I didn't know. But apparently there is. And Elon decided to fire. No, we need to double that number yesterday. The number of people who are super talented engineers and super motivated in the U.S. are far too low. And everybody went, Wait. What do you mean? What do you mean super talented and super motivated is too low? What are we talking about here? What are you mentioning? Is that a shot at native born population? And then he says, think of it like a pro sports team. And this is where Elon's a nerd, because he's trying to be like, think about the sports ball stuff. And everybody's going, wait, what are you talking about sports ball? We're talking about engineers. Engineers don't play sport. What are you doing? And he says, think of it like a sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. That enables the whole team to win. And everybody went, America's not a sports team. America is not an economic zone. It is a people. It is a culture. It is a union of 50 states with a history and so forth. And you're just like, we need to get the top talent, whatever. And that is where everybody kind of went. But we've seen the effects of DEI to a point where white only until this year, I think it was a big deal. Harvard just let in a recent class, and it was not as heavy on African Americans as it has been in the past because affirmative action had been struck down by SCOTUS. And of course, it was not as representative as they wanted it to be. It was more Asians and higher performers on those tests and so forth. And people are going, well, Elon, the reason why you say that there is the number of super talented engineers and super motivated people, it's far too low, is because white people essentially are saying in this statement, and it could be blacks, it could be native born Asians especially, hey, we've been disincentivized because we've tried to apply to these companies and we're not getting in. In fact, there's been lawsuits from places like Facebook and other companies that have had to pay out because they have discriminated against specific populations. So what are you talking about that there's a shortage that is so bad that we need to have this? And of course, when I'm talking about this right here, U.S. tech workers put this out. This was from a couple years ago. And I don't even know if you're seeing it or not. You are good. Facebook settles claim it's discriminated against U.S. workers for some time in favor of temporary visa holders. Then you have this one from Fortune. Apple pays $25 million to settle a suit over favoring foreign hires and making it hard for U.S. workers to apply that few or none did for certain jobs. This is 2023. So Elon's out here running around saying, well, there's not enough of them. And everybody's going, but there is. You guys aren't hiring us, and you guys are disincentivizing us because you're telling us, especially the white male population, and it's not a race thing. It is just a numbers, and it is the way they've done it, the way they focused on race. It's come to this point where you're going, well, I'm a white guy and I have an engineering degree, and now I can't get a job because you guys won't even talk to me. You guys won't even give me an interview. I'll send out 500 applications and I get one response. And that one response, I don't even get an interview. But you have Elon running around. We need the best and the brightest to win the sports ball cup. And they're here. And I want to bring this point up right now. The MAGA right, or whatever, the woke right, as some of the liberals who just showed up 20 minutes ago and now are MAGA influencers are trying to tell you, James Lindsay, you fat fool, that we're racist. Anybody that's voted for Trump and want an American first agenda, you're obviously a racist. No. If you've ever watched the Lord of the Rings extended edition, which is the only edition you should be watching, there's the scene where Aragorn is talking with Boromir. And Boromir's like, hey, man, we can take the ring to Gondor and we can save. And Aragorn's like, nah, man, we ain't doing that. And Aragorn getting mad. He's like, why will you not trust us? Why will you not give us a chance? You're quick to trust these people. You're quick to trust these people. That's American workers. We just want a blanket chance to apply for these jobs. We just want to be able to have these jobs that you're telling us we're not good enough to do. Even though we have the scores, we have the education, we have all these other things. You guys won't even let us through the door. That's what we want. And then you have Elon being like, well, no, you just don't exist. You're not here. You woohoo, you don't exist anymore. So that's the big thing. And I'll get to the MAGA influencers who just showed up trying to turn that on, then, MAGA light or whatever the case may be. So we started off with that. We went to that one. And this was the one that kind of just teed everything. This thing was kind of like it was a fly ball, like can of corn. It was maybe going to pop down after a little while because people were like, this is not great. Then Vivek Ramaswamy decided to send this sucker out of let's keep going with the sports ball references, out of the end zone into the bleachers. And he goes, well, the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over quote-unquote Native Americans, weird choice of words, isn't because of an innate American IQ deficiency, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part comes down to the C word, culture. Tough question, demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, or at least since the 90s, and likely much longer. I'll get all this in a second. It doesn't start in college, it starts young. A college that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympian champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zach and Slater over Screech, which Screech turned out to be a porn-addicted drug addict, but that's neither here nor there, or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. Quote, and then he puts this in there, fact, I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity, and their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. More movies like Whiplash, and then he tries to be cool with cultural references. Fewer reruns of Friends. More math tutoring, fewer sleepovers. More weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons. More books, less TV. More creating, less chilling, quote unquote. Very hip and fly with the references. More extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Most normal American parents look skeptically at, quote, those kinds of parents, unquote. Most normal American kids view such, quote unquote, those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grew up aspiring to normalcy is what you will achieve. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s who raised their kids accordingly to one model versus the other. Normalcy doesn't cut it in the hyper-competitive global markets for technically talented people. And if the pretend it does, we'll have our booties handed to us by China. This can be our Sputnik moment. We've awakened from a slumber to do it again. Blah, blah, blah. It's a bunch of horse nonsense. That's what it is. Here is what this, and certain influencers came out and said, he's right. There's a lot of tough questions here, but he's on the money on this one. Yes, he is. Good job, buddy. You got it. Horse nonsense. 100% horse nonsense. This is nothing but meat. This is just chum in the water to hide this basic fact. Foreign-born H1B visas bring in people who are of similar intellectual level to American engineers. Women, men, black, white, doesn't matter. female, men, male engineers, period. But they come in at a much cheaper rate. They come in for 2 to 3 years, and then they technically go back. And the one country that has focused on the idea of engineering has been the country of India. And so they get these people, they get their engineering degrees, and they go out and they go work in these other places, Canada, England, these United States. And then they try to get citizenship here through sponsorship. Real quick, how great is the country of India? This is not a racist question. How great is the country of India? How well are they doing? If they have engineers that are just funneling out all over the place, why don't they have bathrooms for the lower caste system? By the way, it's a country that operates under a caste system. People still don't want to acknowledge that. And it's a country where it is wildly classist, which is why libs probably join them. And by the way, you have some Indian people of Indian nationalism on Twitter being like, you guys don't know what you just did because we're not going to support Trump. Y'all vote 70% to the left. So don't do like, oh, we're not going to vote. You guys didn't before, so don't try. It's the same thing with other. So don't. But where is the country of India's massive track record when it comes to all of these engineering things that they just are amazing at? Please show me. I have stories about friends of mine who have worked with Indians who have come from India on these H1B3s, or they're in colleges, and the experiences were not great. They were not great. Were they all bad? No, some were really great. Were they all terrible? No. They have the same work ethic that Vivek just pooped on. And this idea that Vivek he just took a dump on America as an idea. The culture of America is terrible. Yet we still, in this union, lead the world in many categories. We still lead the world in tons of categories. And we still do amazing things here. Is the public education system crap? Yes. As somebody who is still in education in one way or another, education system is nonsense. Most of those kids are not going to be doctors or lawyers, but they're not supposed to be. We're talking about the 1%. Those kids who are in private schools, those kids who are being tutored on the side. Those are what we're talking about. There's an engineering shortage because they've created it, because they want to save money by bringing in cheap foreign labor. And that's where my point before about Aragorn saying all we want is a chance comes in, because you're not even giving Americans a chance to try and compete for these jobs, because you're backfilling it with cheap labor. That's all. That's all they're doing. It is a cheap labor ploy. But of course, this came into the guise of immigration and all these other things that are very hot button topics. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's so bad that even Nikki Haley gets to dunk on Vivek. I mean, that's a great way to come back into the, try and get your getting good graces with MAGA, where she throws out, there's nothing wrong with American workers or American culture. All you have to do is look at the border and see how many want what we have. We should be investing in prioritizing in Americans, not foreign workers. I mean, that's an easy thing. It's an easy win that Musk, he threw out some more tweets of people being kind of throwing shade at America. Oh, everybody's now an expert on immigration. Elon, you're a really brilliant guy, and I want, you can build rockets and fire them off to Mars with the help of government funding. Do you know immigration? You understand? He came in on an H1B3. Yes. Or an H1B visa. Yeah, I think we can make an H1B visa for Elon Musk. And I don't think anybody cares if there's 0.01% of the workforce in this United States are H1B visas. Does anybody care about that? Probably not. If you're getting the best and the brightest, which, by the way, India does not rank in any way, shape, or form as far as process improvements or any of these other kinds of things. It's the Swiss and the Germans and the others that are doing that. So by your own ideas, you should be bringing in those people, but you're not, because they would actually demand to be paid what they're worth instead of doing it for 20% less and working 20% more. It's an economics thing. And that's all it is. But to try and hide it behind the culture, and somebody else was like, yeah, it's a really good point, Vivek. You cannot say, oh, well, you can't, you as a white male or as an American are taking job opportunities away from others. So we're going to have to put in a system like DEI to make sure you can't even compete, and then turn around and be like, but yeah, your culture sucks. You can't do both. And that's the problem. Everybody's running to defend Elon and running to defend Vivek. And that's the problem and people are talking about the woke right. And that's the problem when you guys were so desperate for votes and you said, oh yeah, come on in, Big Tent, everybody come on in. Yeah, we don't care. Disaffected liberals, come on, everybody be a part. Yeah, well, guess what? We all just brought these people in, and now we have to deal with them. We had this a little bit in 2016. With the walkaways and all that other kind of stuff. And that's great. If you were somebody who was like, man, I don't feel like doing this anymore, and I really believe in certain values, great. But we put these people on a pedestal and we elevate them to positions of leadership. And now look what we have to deal with. We have to deal with people who don't share common values. And that's how you end up with like Nancy Maces and Lindsey Grahams and all these others, because you're trying to placate to too many different people. But of course, Elon, in the matter of a couple hours, I'm not saying sure he changed his tune, or you got to admit the guy is smart enough to kind of backtrack and throw this out there. Well, let me, maybe this is a helpful clarification. I'm referring to bringing in via legal immigration the top less than 0.1% of engineering talent as being essential to America to keep winning. And then he tries to make another sports ball reference. Great job, buddy. So anybody who's like, oh, well, they're not listening. He obviously backtracked a little bit. To be like, oh, no, I'm not talking about it's not, we just need the 0.01%. Does anybody care about that? No. Nobody cares about that. This whole thing comes down to, once again, the people who, and somebody put this up, we knew this when he and the missus backed up the truck on Miss Melania on abortion along with the R party taking the life. Yeah. We knew they were going to do all this to try and gain more people into the fold. You're right. But he's at least backing up a little bit, being like, oh, I'm just talking about the 0.1%. Was it the 0.1%, or is there an engineering shortage? Which one is it? And it's the hatred of just the average American, which is why people vote for Trump. Because he was at least saying, hey, we'll try to get you back to work. We'll try. And then you have Elon, it's not even January yet. And he's like, yeah, by the way, we need all these engineers because you all are stupid. And then you had other people coming out. I mean, come on, Phil Labonte essentially said Americans are only good for sweeping floors and driving trucks. Now he'll come out, if anybody even mentions it, or brings that up, he'd be like, I wasn't making that point. I was making something else. All right, buddy, you put it in writing, and that's what you think. And there's a lot of people who are trying to talk about this in ways that it misses the point. On their end, on Silicon Valley and tech bros, it's about cheap labor. On our end, on your average American, on your person that's waking up the day after Christmas with family, probably a little bit heavier like myself. I got a little bit of the Christmas pounds on me right now. It's okay. I'll get them off sometime eventually. Who is just wanting to provide for their family and wanting to contribute to their culture. It was a slap in the face to say we have a huge shortage, and it's your culture that's the problem. And the idea here is that, well, this is a problem when you have the tech bros in charge. Vivek's whole post, it just screams of a guy that got beat up too much as a kid because he was the math Olympian. Now, he was a mathlete from Mean Girls. He had his jacket on and he's like, I'm a mathlete. And everybody's like, get out of here, dork. Now, do we need bright, intelligent people like Vivek and Elon? Maybe not them, but people of their ilk? Yes. And that's the problem. We're trying to make this all nerd culture all the time, and a society cannot successfully function as a nerd culture. It just can't.